Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am so excited to have a conversation with actor David Lambert. David starred as Brandon Foster in the series The Fosters, and most recently, you can see David in the movie Snow Valley. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is great.
Let's get started. So, who has had the biggest impact on the person you have become?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, I guess I would have to say my mom. Um, you know, she had me young. She was only like 20 when I was born. I'm the eldest in my family. I have siblings as well, but she is my constant and has been my constant in my life. Um, I thought about it not long ago about how fortunate I was to have parents who allowed me to pursue what I wanted to pursue and follow my dreams and try to make something of that, and I'm very grateful. My mom was there every step of the way. She drove me to auditions. She took me to theater, rehearsals and when I was doing plays as a kid and all the other things, beyond just acting,
Yeah.
obviously. But she continues to be, sort of, yeah, my constant in life. And so I owe it all to her.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Yeah, I feel like the answer has changed for me over time, but I've gotten to a place now where I like to look for little things in life that maybe are can be overlooked very easily, like walking in a beautiful park, or I have a dog. We have a dog, me and my girlfriend. Walking the dog out in nature. Nature in general, I think, is something that I kind of think about immediately when I think of daily things. And also maybe enjoying wherever I'm at in life, no matter if I feel like a lot of young people, especially, we want to accomplish a lot and we can stress ourselves out with that. And um we always feel like the next place to get to is the best place to get to, and we can overlook where we're at right now. And
Yeah.
so I try to practice the idea of enjoying and being grateful and being content and happy with where I'm at now, even if there are other things that I want to do in the future, and um, walking in nature we have beautiful parks around where I live in Orange County area, and uh, that's just one thing that comes to mind, but any sort of pattern, I think, like that is important for people to just, yeah, remember the moment, I think.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I feel like I think I used to struggle with that a little too, like just kind of always looking for the like I don't know where what I want to do next, like where I want to be next, and I just was like, okay, you know what? Just stop for a minute and
Yeah,
um yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's hard to do that
yeah,
sometimes, right? And it's
yeah,
there's I feel like there's, oh, and especially in this world that we live in now with obviously social media and the way we're connected and the
yeah,
speed of which we can convey our ideas, or whatever the case may be, but we can do
yeah,
it like this, and so
yeah,
I think that puts in us this sort of inherent impatience, and we just have to remind ourselves that the speed of life in a lot of ways is
yeah,
slower than we choose to believe it is.
yeah,
um, we live very fast, and I think
yeah.
that can be detrimental. So it's always
Yeah.
about remind the self, remind
Yeah.
that we're okay, and we're okay right now.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, so what has been the biggest obstacle you've overcome?
Another good question. I think I'm lucky that I have had many amazing experiences in my life. I've gotten to do a lot of great things, seen a lot of different places, um, and so I always remind myself of all the different things, all the beautiful things that I've been able to do. But with that, I have had great challenges to overcome, and I think the one that I have to bring up, I suppose, is the greatest would be when my dad passed. My dad passed in April 30th, 2010. He was 47. I was 16. We lived in Atlanta at the time. That's where I lived in the Southeast predominantly growing up. I lived in Atlanta last before moving to Los Angeles. I was in high school, and um, I was actually in LA when we got the call that he was in the hospital. And you know, it was cirrhosis of the liver. He was an alcoholic, and he battled that for a long time, and unfortunately, it got the best of him. And so,
Mm,
anyone who is watching this, or anyone who knows about addiction and the deterioration, unfortunately, that can happen, knows that it's rough, and
yeah.
it gets very dark. And so there was that process, and then ultimately he passed, and then that actually kind of became the last bit of Georgia, a last sort of
Mhm.
time in Atlanta. And his passing sort of coincided with me and my family moving to LA permanently. And I was already acting professionally at the time. I had already done Aaron Stone for Disney XD, and so I continued down that path. But his it was obvious. It was a life-changing loss,
Yeah.
and I it took a long time, and maybe even to a degree, I'm still dealing with that loss. I heard somewhere that it's sort of like being a part of a club you didn't ask to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I get that. It's sort of a dark joke, but I understand the notion, because it is this thing that kind of, it doesn't necessarily get easier. You just sort of learn how to coexist with it. And there's been a lot of benefit. Honestly, it sounds weird, but there's been a lot of benefit to his passing. I feel closer to him in a lot of ways now, and
Mm,
it's opened me up to a lot of aspects of life.
yeah.
Not to get too long-winded with this answer, but um, yeah, his passing was 100% the greatest challenge and biggest moment, I'd say, in my life so far.
Yeah. Oh, well, I am so sorry to hear that.
Thank you, thank you. And it is what it is. It's life, and it was very tough, and he shouldn't have passed when he passed. And
Yeah.
but it's all is well, and it's okay. You know.
Mm. Yeah. I think that is that's I think a great way. I mean, to look at it, that as horrible as it is, like, you still, like, you miss them, and you also keep living your life. Like,
Yeah.
that's something my mom has always taught my sister and I. Like, it's sad, and you grieve, and, like, um yeah, you grieve, and for however long it takes, and then you, like, also keep living.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a beautiful journey for me. I'm lucky enough to be an artist, to be a creative,
Yeah.
to have to express and tell stories.
Yeah.
And, that journey that I went through, in that sort of time in my life has greatly informed me about humans and
Yeah.
life. And, um, so he taught me a lot,
Yeah.
ultimately. And I
Yeah.
used that. I used that, and I will continue to use that.
Yeah.
And, so that's the thing, it all kind of works how it needs to work,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so how do you stay motivated even on days you aren't fully feeling it?
Yeah. These are great questions. You have really, really great questions,
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate that because they're they're so they're real, and
Yeah.
they're a pleasure to answer and think on. Um,
Thank you.
for for me, motivation is big. It inspiration, and feeling that spark. And acting is a strange industry, or profession rather, because there are very few markers of success. There are times where you are in the limelight, working a lot, doing events, promoting the thing, interviews, all these things that happen. And so you're out there, and so it's undeniable you are doing your thing. But there are plenty of periods, or the industry goes on strike, or a pandemic happens, and and those are just obviously things that have happened in recent time. But
Yeah.
there can be plenty of variables in an actor's career that cause him or them to maybe hit a low, and maybe not
Yeah.
be working, or not be doing things that are as public. And so people then think, oh, well, they must be not doing anything. They're failing, or the actors can feel that way too. We're failing. We're not doing as enough. And so getting back to your question about motivation, it is very important. I think for me, and this is sort of an age old thing that I remember hearing when I was a kid getting into acting. And it's sort of like one of those jokey kind of things you hear. Um,
Yeah.
don't don't do this unless you love it.
Mm.
That was one thing I heard. And I still think that's true. I think, and that's out of the idea of um, the challenge that comes with those lulls. And if you can see yourself doing something else that provides more stability, more infrastructure to your life, and that you can and you can envision yourself being happy doing that, then maybe go do that. Because there are many times in an actor's life where it will be sort of iffy. And I think for me, I always go back to the question of, what else would you be doing? you know what else sounds good?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
anything else sound as good as this, even though maybe you're not on a set right now? you know would could you truly put it all away and go do something else? And
Yeah.
I ask myself that all the time, and the answer is always no. I can't. I'm scared of that idea, really. And it doesn't mean I have to always be in front of the camera. I just want to tell stories and be a part of
Yeah.
that process, ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if everyone asks themselves about that, or asks themselves that question, no matter their field, no matter their profession or industry, um, what else could I be, what else could I be doing?
Yeah.
And is there an answer to that question? For me, there isn't. There is nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
And so I live in that. And I think um, we all, in our own versions, in our own lives, in our own worlds, should find that answer out. That is my motivation. I just every now and then I ask myself that again. And we've been through tough
Yeah.
periods. COVID was tough.
Yeah.
It was a lot of reflection. And strikes are tough. And um, change sometimes can be tough. Uh, and so it's important to always go back to the question of, like, could you see yourself doing anything else? Is there something out there that excites you? You know, for me, yeah, it's this or nothing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Um, yeah, so I am pop culture obsessed and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching.
Nice.
Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always feel like I'm behind on my shows and things, but I suppose it's because there's so much out there and all these different
Yeah.
streaming sites and everything. I was just watching House of Dragon. That's something on HBO. I was
Yeah.
or Max as they call it now. Um, I was watching that. I've been following that recently. I've also been watching The Bear.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a little bit behind on that. I'm finishing season three, or I just started season three, so I'm in that. I'm watching that. House of Dragon, I just finished the new season. Um, and yeah, those would be the two things that I've most recently watched. I did go back and rewatch Lost, and
Mm.
uh, what else have I watched? Yeah, I guess that's really those have been like the biggest things that I've put on recently that I from shows and that kind of thing that I've been following. Have you been watching anything?
Cool. Yeah, I'm I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's um a show on Netflix called Unstable that
Okay.
season 2 just came out on last Friday. And my family and I binged watched that over the weekend. We love that show.
Nice.
Um yeah, it's so funny. And there's a new show also that just came out on Netflix called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Oh yeah, I think I heard of that one. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that one is really good too. And then I've been rewatching the shows Royal Pains and the show White Collar.
Oh yeah.
Because those are two of my all-time favorites. So I've been rewatching those since they came back on Netflix.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's one cool thing about now is the access to everything is like
Yeah.
beyond anything it's ever been. I mean, I remember still hunting down DVDs and then Blu-rays, and there was like something to
Yeah.
that, and there's like Hayao Miyazaki, I don't know if you know like Spirited Away and Studio Ghibli and those movies,
Yeah.
fantastic movies. Those used to
Yeah.
be so hard to find,
Yeah.
and I have hard copies of them, but now like HBO has a whole collection of his movies and that's just one example of,
Yeah.
of what I'm talking about. But it's pretty cool like to go back to these old series and different things and they're just right there and you can just,
Yeah.
check it out,
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. I there's one movie that I love that you can't find anywhere. It's not on any streaming service. And so I found the DVD on Amazon. So I bought that on DVD so I could watch
Wow.
it because you can't find it anywhere. So,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I
yeah,
have friends who are they're even more intense about it, and they'll find like rare Blu-rays or rare 4Ks now because there's like 4K um scans of different things or whatever. And so yeah, it's like a whole
yeah,
rabbit hole to go down, but that's
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Um, so, what is something people are always surprised to learn about you?
I'm a pretty closeted geek, I would say. I'm pretty geeky. Like, I mean, I don't think I've necessarily hid that, but I don't know if I've necessarily talked about it like that much either.
Yeah,
Like I love fantasy. I love Tolkien. I love C.S. Lewis, Lord of the Rings and Narnia. Um, I read some George R. R. Martin. I didn't get through all of Game of Thrones, but I've read things like that. I read like Christopher Paolini growing up, like Aragon, which was like such a big thing. Harry Potter, obviously, I read that too. And so fantasy stuff has always been like a backbone for me,
yeah,
and it's honestly part of the reason I became an actor is just because I have such a vivid imagination, and so I played World of Warcraft
Yeah.
for a long time. I'm like a hardcore gamer in that respect with like geekier stuff. Or I heard Henry Cavill talked about it not that long ago. Warhammer, which is like a miniature, they're like miniatures that you can paint, and then there's like a tabletop game. It's like a hobby sort of thing. And there's a few celebrities or actors that do it.
Yeah.
And I grew up with that. I used to like my mom would take me to the mall growing up, and there'd be like a games workshop at the mall, and I'd go in there and like watch them paint and like learn. And I loved that stuff. And it's just, it's like orcs and elves and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
um I think I'll forever love that stuff, so maybe that, I love Ren Fair,
Yeah.
um that kind of thing. I've got a little bit of a geek in me that way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so do you have any irrational fears?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's entirely irrational, but the dark will make me irrational.
Oh, yeah.
So like I guess
Yeah.
darkness, like pitch black darkness, and
Yeah.
also silence, maybe pitch black silence, that'll make me irrational. My mind will go
Yeah.
crazy, and I'll start picturing whatever in there with me, or I'll start hearing things. Maybe that's not very
Yeah.
uncommon, but for me,
Yeah.
that's like I will. So yeah, I will become irrational
Yeah.
with pure darkness. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get
Uh,
better at it. I think it's,
Oh,
calming the mind, still the mind,
yeah.
and can control your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely get that. I hate silence and I don't like the dark. So
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I'm trying to
yeah.
calm
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, I always have to have like something on in the background if I'm doing something else. Like I can't have complete silence. So
Yep. Yep. I've got like fans. I do like white noise, that kind of stuff. I don't do TV because
yeah.
the flashing light will keep me up. So like
Mhm.
I guess I'm kind of
Yeah.
particular a little bit, but
Mm.
I can't
Yeah.
be silent. I know that much. It can't be silent. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually need like more than a fan. I need like something on in the like TV on in the
Yeah.
background.
Hmm.
Because I need to just hear like that, to have one of my comfort shows on and hear like that familiar, like someone's
Totally.
voice or
Totally. I went through long periods where
yeah,
I definitely did that. So I completely get it. I
yeah,
completely get it.
mm,
Yeah. It's interesting. I know plenty of people who have
yeah,
all sorts, like I know people who have like noise apps, or back in the day you could just buy like a noise, like a rain machine. Like you could just buy a
yeah,
plug-in, it'd be like a dial, and it'd be different noises that you could do. And now I
yeah,
think the phone has a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting. There's all
yeah,
sorts of ways to just calm down.
yeah, definitely. Um, so what is the best song to describe your life right now?
Wow. Um, Probably Going Back to My Roots by Richie Havens. Yeah, it's an older song. Richie Havens is known. He played this song called Freedom, and he had a rendition of it at Woodstock that is sort of the version of the song. I believe he also improved the song. I think he wrote it on the spot. So I don't know that for sure though. So people should look into that. But there's a song called Freedom by Richie Havens. It's in like Django Unchained actually, but it's an old song, legendary song.
Yeah,
And he's a legendary artist. He has like all sorts of really, really good songs, but he's a song called Going Back to My Roots, and I think it's from one of his. It's like an album from the '80s, or something like that. It's a less. I think it's sort of like a lesser known, but the track talks about the idea of getting back to yourself, and he doesn't mean home. He means getting back to the self within. But it's
yeah,
this groovy kind of track with like really sick piano and like really great vocals, and it's like it's not disco, but it's got like a really interesting vibe, and but the song itself is actually quite spiritual, if you want to call it that, or it's really thoughtful, and
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a good representation. I love that
Yeah.
song. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so if you had a day to yourself, what would it look like? Where would you go and what would you do?
Um, I'm half Puerto Rican. My mom is Puerto Rican, and I have a big, giant Puerto Rican side of the family. And I have family in Puerto Rico. I have family in the States. Um, so I'd probably go to Puerto Rico. I would stay with some relatives there. I would um I would read in the morning. I'm reading Silmarillion right now, which is another Tolkien. It's a book he wrote before Lord of the Rings, or it takes place before Lord of the Rings. So I'd read my fantasy book in the morning, get dreamy with that, and then I'd probably go walk either on the beach, or maybe, Puerto Rico has beautiful jungles and beautiful inland stuff too. So something like that, something about nature, go get a beautiful meal. I think food, really good food, is important for obviously nourishment, but I think it's good for the soul. And cooking is one of my great loves as well, actually. And so I'd go get some really good food, and then maybe go out in the water, and then maybe come back and listen to some live music at a little hole in the wall place. Um, and then probably go back and make dinner with my family, and, make some sort of meal that takes a long time. Um, and that'd probably be it, and then at night have like a nice kind of quiet time, maybe watch a good movie and call it,
Yeah.
think that would
Yeah.
be it. But yeah, something like that. I've been wanting to go back
Yeah.
to Puerto Rico for a while, so maybe that's it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love that. That sounds like a great day. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so if you had a reality TV show about your life, what would your theme song be?
Uh, can I take another theme song that's already existed?
Yeah.
I'll take the
Yeah.
Full House theme song.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Everywhere you look, everywhere. Just that. I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Instant nostalgia, instant grab. People are
Yeah.
in. They don't know why the song's playing. And yeah, I don't know why either, but I like
Yeah.
it. It's good. It's like a
Yeah.
little hook, I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I love that. That is such a catchy theme song. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Um, so what is your proudest accomplishment so far?
Um, I mean, I think I have to mention the Fosters. Um, for all of the things that the Fosters gave me. Um, and starting with that audition process, I really had to sort of prove to get in there, the classic way: audition, callback, producer director sessions, chemistry reads, the whole thing. And so
Yeah.
there was a process to get the role. That felt good. It was a pilot, and we weren't and for sure that we were going to even do more. So when it got picked up, that felt good. And then we also eventually got more seasons ordered, so that felt good. And so it felt like
Yeah.
the Fosters, and then ultimately it became a 5-year experience for me, a journey for all of us involved. But I can't thank everyone enough who was involved with that process, the decision making process, the casting process, to have me involved with that show. Bradley
Yeah.
Bredwig, Joanna Johnson, Peter Page, um, Scott Genkinger was the casting director. Greg Guglielmo was another producer. Chris Saccani was another producer. These are the people, and there are
Yeah.
more. I could go on with the names, but those people were the ones who ultimately made the decision and made the call to cast me as Brandon. And
Yeah.
I recognize that moment, that and how that set up my life and taught me so much. And um, I met so many people that way that I continue to know to this day. Um, and just being a part of that, we shot at Warner Brothers. We shot on stages that had been built in the 50s. James Dean had been there. Like, all these different people had been there, really.
Yeah.
I could go on with different names in that regard as well, but just being a part of all that history. And I just love Hollywood, real Hollywood. And I love
Yeah.
acting, I love sets, and I love playing pretend, and I
Yeah.
love the history of Hollywood. And so it just very much felt like I got to be a part of that history, being on that sound stages and on that lot. And that all came from the Fosters. That all came from the Fosters. And so I have to mention that. That's definitely, I'm very proud of that accomplishment, and it continues to be a blessing, in my life, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so I just have one more question for you. Um, I love inspiring and motivational quotes, and this week the one that spoke to me is optimism is not the denial of the current state. Optimism is the belief that the future is bright. Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Joseph Campbell says, "Follow your bliss." And I would say that is, you know, a an MO of mine, for sure. Following your bliss. It goes back to what I was saying before. Whatever it is you love in life or moves you in life, stay in that lane and see where it takes you, if you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get there, given whatever circumstances are going on in someone's life. But if they can get closer to themselves and take the steps, just one after the other, to maybe make more time to follow your dreams and follow your bliss, follow what feels good, um, I'd like to see where people go, and I think you can surprise yourself. So I'm a proponent of that. I'm a believer
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
To follow your bliss. Everyone should do that.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love
Thank
that
you.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, Campbell's great. Joseph Campbell's great. Hero
Yeah.
with a Thousand Faces. He has a list of books. Pathways to Bliss is another great one. So maybe
Yeah.
people should check out Joseph Campbell as well if they have
Yeah.
not heard of him.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've heard the name, but I'm writing him down because I'm gonna look him up. So,
Please do. Please do. Yeah, I
yeah.
love him, and maybe you will too. Of
Yeah. Thank you so much for that recommendation.
course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Well, that was my final question for you. I have just had the best time talking with you. I've been trying to interview you for several years, so I can't tell you what this means to me. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, and I'm glad that we could finally get this done. This was a great. I mean, these were some of the best questions, truly, that I've ever been asked, and I thank you for that, because it was a really great conversation. So thank you. Honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, I have yeah, loved our conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Maya. I hope you do as well, and I wish you the
Thank
best
you.
continued success with this podcast and everything else that you do. Of
Thank you so much.
course. All right. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye. And that's a wrap on today's edition of the latest with Maya.